Good morning, everyone. We are back from Waikoloa Villages. Did I startle you with that?
No, I'm
Okay,
good.
good.
I just felt like we should be like news anchors.
Yeah.
Good morning. Aloha.
Oh, there we go. Right. So Kim is not here with us today, but I've got the lovely Krista Oldenburg from Silver Lake. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So I'm going to let you give your own title. How about that?
Perfect. All right. So, hi, everybody. My name is Krista Oldenburg. I'm the Director of Business Development. You typically see Matt, Dan, and Darren at these things or know them most prominent for Silver Lake Auto. So, I'm kind of the behind the scenes on the business development. So, I work a lot with marketing and business development and the recruiting side of things. So, Dan originally hired me about 2.5 years ago to be the professional extrovert. If you know Dan, he is phenomenal at building leaders and empowering people, but he doesn't necessarily love peopling with the masses, which is where
Peopling. That's a new word.
Absolutely.
I'll have to use that.
Yeah,
Write that down.
Dan does not love the peopling.
Peopling.
Yeah, so we were having dinner last night, and they're like, "I'm so tired. I talked to so many people." I'm like, "I feel great." So I was hired to be the professional extrovert. I work part-time doing social media, and then he said, "Hey, do you want to like?" The more he started finding out about my background, he's like, "Hey, you want to take this on? You want to take this on?" And so I helped really create and shape the recruiting process and recruiting initiatives for Silver Lake Auto in the very beginning. And then I was offered a full-time position as Director of Business Development. And now I say that I am the self-proclaimed brand passionista of Silver Lake Auto. So,
I think that's a pretty good summary of. Hey, I'm pretty sure you left a lot of stuff out in between.
that's the highlight reel.
That's the highlight reel. And it's quite the highlight reel, if I do say so myself. And I'm glad you're here because
Thank you.
The round table that you did, you've done a couple of them here. It's mostly been around building a brand.
Yes.
So for all the people that were not able to make it to Super Conference, which I don't know why you weren't able to, we're in Hawaii. So
it's a phenomenal tax deduction trip.
Exactly right. So hey, maybe accounting is in your future too.
Absolutely not. I just said somebody said, put me in front of the group of 100 people. Don't put me in front of a spreadsheet.
Right, but this is so important that we've had a few podcasts that we've done over the last week, quite more than a few. I'll really put it that way. But marketing has been a pretty big focus. My roundtable was actually about marketing.
Okay.
And yours about building the brand. I feel like we've merged quite well. And I also like to people, or I'm a peopler. I like to peopling.
Yeah.
But either way, I really want to really get into that as far as for the people that are watching this about building a brand.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what exactly is a brand?
Right. So a brand is something that extends much further and is much greater than just a brick and mortar. It's something, I say it's kind of like the DNA of who you are. We, in the roundtable, we use the example of Harbor Freight and Snap-on, right? Both in their business is in the tool retail space, right? But both have very different personalities and they go about it very differently, right? So whether you're a Harbor Freight fan or a Snap-on fanatic, they both have very strong brands and they have very strong followings, and it's all because about their branding, and they have a very clear picture of who they are, what they want to offer, and how they want to deliver that. And so that's where being a brand can really allow you to differentiate yourself in the marketplace, but then also really leverage that to your advantage with all of your systems and processes, whether it's through marketing materials or your operations. It really kind of creates that cohesiveness within your organization and your company.
That's great. I really want to talk about the whole Harbor Freight Snap-on thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm a Harbor Freight guy.
Yeah.
Right. I'll give you a little bit of my background. I bought my first car when I was 16, and nobody in my family was into cars. And I went to go get an oil change on the car. It was a BMW.
Yeah.
And I went to Firestone.
Yeah.
It was $200. That's what they quoted me. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because my family had like Corollas and Civics. They had like $20 tops at that time. So I went to Harbor Freight because I didn't know where else to buy tools.
Right.
If I Googled it, they branded themselves really well. And I put automotive repair tools, and Harbor Freight popped up.
Yeah.
So I went to Harbor Freight and got my first tool set. And since then, it's just so practical. It's very affordable.
Correct.
And I don't want to pay a tool truck $10 a week for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Right. So, and obviously it was starting out. So
yeah,
I love Harbor Freight just from accessibility standpoint, the way that everything is affordable, anybody can really have the access to it.
Right.
Now, on the opposite side of that, I'm a BMW guy.
Right.
So I do a lot of
strong brand loyalty to that.
Exactly. Right. So, and I like that analogy because Snap-on is the BMW of the tools.
Yeah.
Right. And not just Snap-on. There's other tool trucks and all of that.
Yes, correct.
But they've branded themselves as that premier option, right? You buy once, you cry once, in a sense, right? I mean, it's one of those things.
I think there's multiple times that people are crying after Snap-on.
Every week, that paycheck.
Yeah.
Every time it comes up.
Yeah. But I mean, it's all about what you value, right? And
exactly.
Where you want to spend your dollar for that value.
Exactly. And what you get for it, too.
Exactly.
The experience from Snap-on.
Right.
I mean, I really don't do much tool truck stuff. But if the tool truck is coming to you,
right,
compared to you going to Harbor Freight.
Right.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of Harbor Freights out there, but they're not like right at the corner of your shop. So with the tool truck, it's about convenience.
Right.
And we always know convenience means more money.
Correct.
And it's how they branded themselves. So I really like how you kind of summed up what a brand is.
Thank you. Yeah. And price is what you pay, value is what you get. And I think that's where Snap-on's really leverages with their brand is the customer experience and providing that easy accessibility for technicians, especially if they're swamped. So that's just a way for them to differentiate themselves in the marketplace. So, neither one are wrong. I mean, they're both multi-billion-dollar industries. They're billion-dollar businesses. So they're doing a phenomenal job about building a brand and a following. And so, I mean, and truly, it just creates that customer loyalty because how many years ago was that for you?
12 now.
12. Yeah. I mean, do you still buy it from Harbor Freight?
Of course.
Absolutely. So there you go. So building a brand has that long-term impact. It can have a positive long-term impact on your business and what that does for your customer base and everything else from there. So it's a really important topic that I think probably gets brushed aside because it's not the burning fire of the day or of the hour. It's just something that takes a lot of intentionality and to go about that. And we talked a lot about that in the round table. So
So, and this is not a short-term play. This is a long-term play.
Correct.
But you can make a lot of progress in the short term. What are some of the things that you guys have done at Silver Lake to kind of build that brand from a short-term standpoint versus a long-term?
Oh man, that's a great question. So I think probably we talked about this. We did what's called the brand journey or the infinity loop, and we chose the infinity loop for a reason because being a brand is something that it's its own living, breathing entity that requires love, attention, care, investment with time, energy, and resources. But the very first component of being a brand is having some clear intentions about who you are, what you want to offer, and how you want to deliver that. And Silver Lake Auto with Dan and Darren, they were really clear, or they took the time to kind of slow down to speed up with our strategic planning initiatives that we did probably 2.5 years ago. And that's where we got into a war room and did our vision, mission, and core values and really figured out who we are. Being a brand is constantly evolving. So like after doing this presentation, trust me, we still have a lot of homework to do, and which I'm excited to get back to work and start working in that. But they just really took the intentional time 2.5 years ago to, I think we were in those key leaders in our organization. It was Mike Bennett and Bobby Poyce because there are two coaches from ATI. And then we had an external facilitator. And we just got really clear on like who we are and what we want to be about. And from there, that helps like fast forward a lot of our things, whether it's with operations or systems or marketing materials. And so we really use that to leverage in terms of recruiting and what we are looking for. So we want to attract like-minded individuals. And so we were really clear on that with our marketing materials when it comes to the recruitment process. And that's really allowed us to attract some really high-level talent who want to be a part of a company that's looking for growth-minded, innovative, and caring professionals.
So I kind of want a quick little summary there, right? So what at least this is what I gathered from it. And correct me if I'm wrong. But first things first, we have to have a plan. Where are we going?
Right.
We were trying to take this. So mission, vision, right? That's one of the two big things.
And core values.
And core values, exactly. And from there, we can really start crafting which direction we want to go from a short-term standpoint, long-term standpoint. The biggest thing that I know you mentioned was brand is constantly evolving. An example that comes to mind is, what was COVID originally called?
Coronavirus. Yeah.
Coronavirus, right? Yeah. So just imagine for people that like Corona. Imagine Corona, as soon as it was announced, it's called the coronavirus. People refer to it as Corona for initially.
Yeah, right.
So for the brand, for Corona, imagine how much of a, kind of a storm that
was a hit. Yeah.
Yeah. but they had to kind of figure out a way how we're going to twist this or whatnot. I'm not entirely sure if they really did anything because they've built their brand, for so long that this was a speed bump, but they knew they're going to get over it.
Yeah, correct.
Now, we all have these setbacks, whether it's economic, whether it's personnel related.
Correct.
But one thing I like that you mentioned was, when people think about brand, they think about marketing, they're usually thinking about, how are they going to bring customers in the door?
Right.
They're not thinking as much about the internal customers, getting those technicians, the advisors. If you think about it, it's one of those things where, like, would you rather work for Harbor Freight or would you rather work for Snap-on?
Right.
Two very different business models.
Correct.
But from a brand perspective, you want to work for the higher end one usually, and whatever value that they're providing.
Right.
But everybody has their needs and wants.
Correct.
So when you're branding yourself in that area, the people that you find are going to attract to the brand, and they are going to be the ones that understand that, hey, this is what I want to be a part of.
And we say, like, whether a potential candidate is reading through our mission and our core values, if they select to apply, awesome. If they select and don't want to be a part of it, that's still a win for us because that saves us time on the recruitment process side of things. So it's being really bold and passionate about who you are. That's why the brand Passionista comes through. Really helps kind of fast forward things quite a bit, especially when it comes to recruiting.
So this is one of the things that I know a lot of marketing professionals struggle with. When they go into an organization, whether they're hired in or they're being used as a service, and we've talked about this in a previous podcast, but it really comes down to the owners or whoever they're directly dealing with. They don't necessarily always agree with the marketing professional's strategy or whatnot. Well, I'll give you an example. So, I did a marketing roundtable with George Zeeks and Eric Twiggs.
Okay.
And George Zeeks, he was kind of like the facilitator for the whole thing, right? He was introducing and big picture. And then I was doing acquisition and Eric was doing retention. So in my mind, I've got crazy ideas, right? I'm thinking, I want to dress up as like one of those inflatable boxers as acquisition. Eric would dress up as a inflatable boxer as retention. Now let's go back and forth, right? Which one's better?
Obviously, robot.
Exactly, right? So things like, and obviously that wouldn't play too well. We only have a certain amount of time. I mean, I get that.
Right.
But that's an idea that's far-fetched. So I know when you first joined the organization, you were hired for peopling.
Yeah.
Right. So in that sense, what are some struggles that you faced as part of the organization with, any ideas that you brought to the table?
Probably the biggest uphill struggle has been, and it really hasn't been a struggle because Dan and Darren and Matt are really good about taking the time to get clear on who we want to be and understanding and having them take the time to put forethought into what's the direction of the business. I mean, we just went through this with our 5-term strategic planning retreat that we did in January and really getting clear on like what are our goals and let's be bold about those. And so now that we have a really clear picture of the next 5 years, I mean, that was like really intense 48 hours, but just getting clear and getting some direction from them about how they want to grow the business and what does that look like. And then understanding, then I can kind of seeing the bigger picture, being let in on the bigger picture and helping create that. Then I love putting together puzzles. So then it's like, all right, how can we do this for acquisition and retention and whatnot? And so they really haven't had, and I'm very appreciative because I really haven't had too many ideas where they're like, no, let's not try it. I mean, like Dan, they understand that marketing is an investment and there is risk to that. And probably, if anything, Dan's saying like, I need to take more risks. The past couple of years has been getting my feet and legs underneath me because I'm not from the automotive background. And so I say that I speak human. I don't speak automotive.
Which is arguably better.
Well, yeah. And Dan's like, that's perfect. That's why we hired you. Or that's why I want you to be in this position. And, so just kind of learning and understanding like what are our current systems and processes for everything and understanding where our new customers are coming from. And now that I have a much clearer picture and working with Mike Bennett, I'm excited to go back and put together the puzzle of what the marketing department and branding department for Silver Lake Auto is going to look like for each of our 6 locations.
That's amazing, right? That's very well said. Now, I do want to touch on that a little bit where this is the importance of having the right person in marketing.
Correct.
What you said actually makes a lot of sense for anybody at home, whether you're in the automotive business, any business that you're in. Usually, for the most part, the owner, and whoever they usually pick for heading the marketing or whatnot, they want them to have an understanding of the business, even from a technical perspective, in a sense.
Right.
But I think it's so important that the person that's handling your marketing knows people as opposed to knowing your business.
Correct.
Because they're going to be able to really give you that insight as to what's going to resonate with people outside. Because our judgment gets a little cloudy.
Right.
I talk cars. Right. And like, for example, like if I'm just walking and I feel like, sometimes one of my legs hurts, right? And I'm just walking a little goofy.
Yeah.
I'm telling my significant other or my friends my alignment's off.
Yeah.
And I'm not speaking at all like my leg hurts and all. I'm speaking in car terms and even day-to-day stuff. Most people do not understand that.
Right.
So you have to have the right, kind of message going across. Now with that being said, what is one of the things that you've really implemented at Silver Lake to get their message across to the customer base?
Yeah, that's another great question. I think probably with being the brand passionista and just really understanding who we are as a company, being able to articulate that through our messaging. And so my biggest piece of advice is once you understand that, to really, when you are working with your vendors or through your vendors, is to be you have to fight for your brand and always be constantly managing it. Because if you don't fight for it and you just accept the status quo of whatever they send you as the first draft, it's going to be very, very different than what the end result is. So like, we are opening up a new location. It's in a brand new market. It's a ground up startup location, and so it's our first time to introduce ourselves to the Grafton market. And so our postcard process. I mean, this graphic designer, like, I give her credit for being resilient and going through my mass edits to pare things down and get it very clean and crisp about, you have to curate the consumer's experience so that they see what you want them to see within the first 2 to 3 seconds.
Wow. That's one of the things, right? The first 2 to 3 seconds.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of time.
It's not a lot of time. So you got to be like bold and clear and very articulate and very descriptive about who you are and what you want to offer them.
So, and this is something that I preach in a sense. You got to do what others aren't.
Yeah.
You still got to do what others are.
Right.
But you also do what others aren't. So when it comes to the postcard or any type of content that's being consumed by anybody.
Correct.
That first 2 or 3 seconds is so crucial. And this is why some of these short form platforms like TikTok,
Yes.
YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, all this stuff has really taken off.
Correct.
I have pretty bad ADHD, right? So I'm always just
Who
bouncing.
doesn't right now?
And this is it exacerbates it, right? With all of the stuff that's going out. I think it was George Zeeks or Eric Twiggs that brought up a statistic where on average on a daily basis, I think this is the University of Nebraska that did a study on this. There's about 95.8 ads per day that stick with you, but we see thousands of ads.
Correct. Yes.
So those 95, I still think that's a lot of ones that will like actually stand out to you or stick out. Like, for example, I think Chick-fil-A does a pretty good job with this, right? With their eat more chicken, and then you had the cows. I don't know if they still do that, but
they've gotten away from that, and then they've gone more towards the storytelling with like the cute little commercials.
Yeah, yeah. But with the cow,
yeah,
I mean, you see that on the side of the
that's
street.
clever.
If you see it on the side of the street, you're like, okay. I mean, I know exactly what that is.
Yeah.
Even when they first started, that's still pretty out there.
Yeah.
So imagine the person that pitched that idea, right? I mean, that had to take some resilience to get that idea through.
Right. But I say there's brilliance and brevity, another motto that we have that we adopted from Brian Gosselot at BG Automotive is simple scales, fancy fails. So in this era of the chaos, people don't have the capacity to navigate that chaos. And so if we think that we're going to, by throwing more information at them, that, something's going to stick. Well, nobody's going to read it. I mean, I just went through this with a vendor in the trade show who I work with, and he asked his honest opinion. And I said, do you really want it? And he said, yes. I said, all right, well, here's what I'm thinking, because I'm not reading any of this.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about too.
Yeah. I mean, there's too many words. People don't have the capacity to navigate chaos. So that's why it goes back to the original point of getting really clear on who you are and what you want to offer, and then being able to articulate that in a very clear and concise way. I always say more with less. that's where like the marketing pieces really comes to play, or even working with the YouTube shorts or the Instagram reels. And yes, we'll get on TikTok. That is a key initiative for us. But just being a breath of fresh air and showing the behind the scenes about who you are and what you have to offer, and but not necessarily always showing car repair, because most people really don't like getting their car worked on or having that built, but they do appreciate doing business with like-minded people who have that same value. And so being able to help build that relationship through social media, where these people look friendly, approachable. Wow, their shop is really clean. They're super professional. They're very engaged in the community. Showing that it increases your likability. And if you've attended last year's super conference with Walter Bond, likability is what people buy. And so being a more likable auto care or auto repair business or collision is something that you can leverage to differentiate yourself in the marketplace, because most people are just showing, like throwing up oil change certificate or oil change ads on their social media. And if they're in social media, they want to be zoning out from today's society.
Oh my goodness.
So like they're going to be like, oh,
yeah, skip, right?
Yeah, it's like, this is annoying. Get off my feed. So the more you can show of your people, because that's what social media loves. Mm-hmm. I think the higher chances of success that you will have in terms of engaging with like-minded individuals.
So that's the key word right there. You have to engage, right? No matter what you're doing, whether it's a DVI presentation, you have to engage the customer. With marketing, this is very important. I know you brought up the whole thing with, too much text, too much information, and, the whole oil change specials on social media. The other one that really bugs me the most is the 5-star testimonial screenshot that people put on there with no face, nothing. It's just the 5-star with text.
Yeah.
Nobody is reading that.
Right.
If you're just putting a screenshot on there, nobody's going to read it.
Correct.
I think there's got to be a good balance. Don't get me wrong. I think we should still have some of these on there.
Yeah.
But the intent has to be there. So if the intent for that 5-star post is just so we can make sure we're still seeming professional on our pages, if someone's scrolling through, perfect. But don't expect that 5-star review screenshot to get you any kind of conversions.
Yeah.
Don't run any ads on that post. Don't boost that post.
Correct. Well, that and, brilliance and brevity, say more with less. I mean, don't be posting the whole paragraph. Just put like the 5 keywords that you want them to see, or, let's get creative here and like do a walk around the shop, and then somebody could be reading it, and then there's a closed captioning and it ends with the 5 stars.
Wow.
It's more engaged, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty good.
That's all it takes.
Or
just have them do a testimonial, right? But and just brief.
Yeah.
Pull a snapshot on there. One thing I did want to talk about was do you know the mission statement for Silver Lake by heart?
Yeah. We exist to serve because you deserve better.
How short was that?
Yeah. We were really clear on that one.
That
one took like 6 hours, or not 6 hours, but took like 4 hours to pair that.
I don't know why it took 4 hours. You have ChatGPT now. It could have been done in like 2 minutes.
This was like 2.5 years ago. This was like when Bennett was like in his initial sandbox.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, honestly, we talk a lot about leveraging ChatGPT to be part of your marketing team. And
of course,
you don't have to pay ridiculous amounts of money to have all these vendors or a large team. I mean, I'm a team of like 2.5 people, and it's myself.
2.5 people.
2.5 people.
Is the 0.5 ChatGPT?
No.
Okay, so it's 3.
It should be 3. So
yes,
ChatGPT has the other.
There we go.
But I do have an outside sales.
I got
who works part-time. He's Steve. He's phenomenal. And then I have a full-time recruiter who's absolutely wonderful. So, but from marketing, I mean, I'm really treating our vendors with what we pay them as employees. And so this is what I expect. Yeah, absolutely. So you got to make sure you have some good return on investment. So don't be afraid to constantly be going back to them if things are not in alignment with your brand, or asking what you need for your marketing department, or the information that you need. I mean, Steer's been a phenomenal example of building out through the reporting features that, I mean, this is what I need. And I know, being in multi-shop, we are kind of not the norm, but there's a lot of key information that would help even single stores have a much better grasp on their customer retention, or where their customers are coming from. So, but giving that candid feedback is really important, that we advocate for ourselves with our marketing vendors, because if we're not demanding anything from them, they're never going to change. And just like our customers are demanding more of us, we need to do that back to them.
Well, we had Alda from Epicor in here yesterday on the podcast. And she really stuck out with one of the phrases she uses. You can't manage what you can't measure.
Right.
Right. So whatever efforts you're doing, you have to be able to measure them. When it comes to marketing, I know we started out with the whole branding, right? But we've kind of really shifted into the marketing, but that all goes hand in hand.
Absolutely.
But the brand, yeah, you have to develop what the brand is first, and then we're marketing to that brand.
Correct.
Now, with that being said, y'all's mission statement is very concise, very clear.
Yeah.
For those that are home that are watching this or listening to this, make sure you start there. I mean, we have to have that foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So get your mission statement right. And as soon as you have that, and also your vision, that's going to be more internal, but you need to figure out what your mission is. From there, we can really share this with your marketing team. And if you don't have a marketing team, this is your opportunity. We have to start somewhere.
Right. Right. And leverage ChatGPT. I mean, like you can even, and the thing is, just start. I mean, I just start playing with ChatGPT, or even I gave them the exercise to use ChatGPT to scrub your website and say, what are the top 5 themes that comes through our website. And so that way it gives you an instant pulse on how your website is structured, or what is the content that resonates with the consumer, or what the website is presenting, and what you're trying to, is it that in alignment with your intention originally? So we did that activity as well. So just use ChatGPT to scrub your Google reviews, scrub your social media. So that way it gives you a pulse on, are you hitting the mark? Because if you don't know where you're going, it's really hard to hit the mark.
There you go.
Right. Or it's just like, putting the destination in on GPS. You got to know where you're going so that way you navigate how to get there.
Yeah. And Kim had this analogy that she brought up a couple podcasts back, where if you throw mud at the wall and just wait to see what sticks, you're going to be throwing mud for days.
Right. Or you'll be happy with what you get. Hey, something stuck.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
We definitely don't want that, because all this stuff costs time, costs money.
Right.
But we are very big proponents of using technology.
Correct. Work smarter.
Yeah. And I mean, technology is improving rapidly. Everything integrates with something else one way or another.
Correct.
Like the whole ChatGPT thing, it blows my mind that how accessible it is now. Like you can download ChatGPT on your phone and talk to it like an assistant at this point.
Correct.
Right. So when we're doing this, asking it to scrub your website, asking it to scrub your socials, there's so many options out there.
Right.
And if you don't know how to do this, you can literally just Google it.
You can Google it. You can YouTube it. You can ask your coach. I mean, but here's the thing. Just like ask it a question. Like these do not have to be scientifically written.
No.
Well articulated or
It used to be like that.
Like, yeah, right. I mean, like very first draft, and say like, hey, what are the big themes from scrub my website, and what are the big themes? And then like based off of what it gives you back, then you can go back and say, okay, that's great. Now, can you go in further and say, ask it a separate question, but these do not have to be highly like well thought out questions. I mean, start very basic. And then once you start creating that dialogue, what's the little chat GPT where you can kind of create like that brand personality?
Oh, it's just a persona.
Yeah. So once you create a GPT persona, right?
Yep.
Label it as like your marketing guru or whatever.
So they actually refer to it as you create a GPT. If you look on the left side, it says create a project. So once you create that project, you can give it all the instructions. You can really give it all the stuff that you want it to go based off of.
Yes.
And as long as you're in that project or that GPT, it continues to learn.
Yeah. So you're like raising it and grooming it, like you're rearing it as a child to be your marketing person. And it's really quite phenomenal. But as you start to ask these questions or based off of community XYZ, what are the top 3 things customers look for when it comes to auto repair service? Just using it and grooming it, you'll be able to say, based off of this line of questioning, what are other questions I should be asking you, or what are other ways I can be utilizing you? It will tell you. And then it's like, holy crap, like here's the next project that we start working on and investigating and as time allows. But just asking basic questions, and you'll be amazed with the information you get.
You can even give it like direct orders as far as like create my marketing plan for me.
Correct.
Give me suggestions. What should I create this post about? what kind of visuals do I need for this post?
Correct.
Give me a video script.
What are the best hashtags to be using for local search? Like, okay, based off of like
you do have to give us some parameters.
Yeah. Yes, correct. But I mean, like you really use it to your advantage. So you can cover a lot more ground in a much shorter time frame.
So I'll give a brief example. The first time I used ChatGPT, I had to make dinner that night. I didn't want to make dinner, but I had to. And I didn't want to leave
life, right?
I didn't want to leave the house either. So I just looked in my fridge and I got down just a quick list of stuff that was in there. It was mostly leftovers. I just kind of gobbled them together. Yeah. But I just put in ChatGPT. Hey, this is what I have in my fridge. What can I make with this?
Yeah.
Spit out a recipe, like the whole thing, start to finish. And
with measurements.
Wow.
That's crazy.
It's ridiculous, right?
That's pretty wild. That's good.
And it wasn't even a casserole. It was just, I don't even know what they called it, but it tasted good.
Yeah.
Right. And only thing I did have to make that didn't have leftover was rice.
Yeah.
In 30 minutes, I had the whole thing figured out. Instead of for 30 minutes, usually what I would do is just keep thinking like, okay, what am I going to make? Or what do I got?
Uber Eats is starting to look better all the time. Yeah, for sure.
No, but it's one of those things. We have these resources at our fingertips. We have to utilize them.
Correct.
Now, one final question I have for you.
Sure.
If you were to talk to a viewer right now, what are the top 3 things that they should do if they don't have a brand?
That's a great question. Top 3 things.
Yes.
All right. First, get really clear on who you are. Mission, vision, core values, your brand personality. Jason, is there a way? So I created a whole bunch of handouts and like ChatGPT prompts for the roundtables.
Yeah.
Where we could it's a Google.
Yeah. You want to share it?
Can you post it at the bottom?
Yeah.
Okay. So you'll have access.
Look at that. That alone is that's some value there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of value.
So if you made it through this way.
Yeah. Look at that.
This far in the podcast. Congratulations. So so we'll share that folder with a bunch of different links and materials, but it's, going through getting clear on who you are with your vision, mission, core values, but also there's the 3 components of a brand identity with visual, verbal, and feel. And so you can kind of just go through and start playing with creating a first draft of your brand, right? Because we said this is an infinity loop. It's always evolving. We got to go back and revisit. Is this still who we are and still where we want to be going and who we want to be? So first up is getting clear. Second of all is, let's see, we'll go with perception is understanding how your customers view and feel about you. And so that's where I said leverage ChatGPT and use it to scrub your Google reviews and say, what is based off of the past 12 months of Google reviews, what are we doing well? And it will give you some answers and then say, what are our areas of improvement? And then it will give you some answers and see if it's in alignment with who you want to be and what you want to be about. And then go work through operations to address those customer complaints. Somebody said yesterday a customer complaint is a gift because it tells you how you can get better.
Exactly.
That was a golden nugget.
That is.
So really understand your customer perception and how they view and feel about you so you can start making some instant headway on improving that. And then the other thing that I would say, the other short exercise that we did was talking about brand evolution. So you can adapt to stay relevant in changing times and put yourself in the consumer shoes and say, if you had an auto care need, would you do business with you? Why or why not?
That's powerful right there.
Right. And just say, list why. That's great. And then the why nots, like if you would not do business with you, like that is an issue. And
that's a big issue
addressed right away. But you can even think about how you like to shop as a consumer and what those brands are doing to get your dollar, and think about how you can possibly adapt what they do or their strategies or what they offer or how they offer it that you could adapt so it makes it more relevant to you, and then adapting it to your brand and to your business operations and marketing plan. So those would be the big.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's a game changer. I know a lot of this stuff involves ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Just because it doesn't have to, but it's just such a good resource. And it just speeds things up.
Yeah, ChatGPT for like perception and or intention and kind of consistent execution and perception, but then also like evolution. Just be a human. Like you were born a human first before you were in the automotive industry.
Exactly.
So think about how you like to shop and why you like to shop that way, or how you like to spend your dollar, and just really be a human and put yourself in that consumer experience and again, like start from the very beginning about making an initial decision and walk it through like all the way through the end of the process.
Yeah.
And then that would be a good way to identify windows of opportunity where you can start to implement and change and evolve so that you're more relevant in the marketplace with like-minded individuals.
So one of the exercises I have my members do is to bring somebody from their family, or if they have a friend that's not into cars at all, that's not involved in the shop at all, and have them go through that whole thing, right? Because they're going to have different feedback than what you have.
1,000%. Like we did that activity in the workshop where we had them, each individual pull up their website or social media, whatever they thought was the most reflective of their brand. Website is probably better because there's the online booking, right? It gets them, it leads them towards that booking that and scheduling
journey,
an appointment. Right. So pull up your website when you're with family and friends and just say, hey, play around with this and tell me your thoughts.
Yeah.
And tell me what are 3 words that are very apparent through our branding, and you'll get some really good feedback about how it needs to adapt and change, and
how it makes them feel even.
Yeah, exactly. That's the customer experience, and understanding what is resonating with or what is being portrayed through your website, and is that reflective of the brand of who you are and what you want to be about.
And the website is so important. A lot of people discount the fact about the website because people think everybody's just on Google all the time. But where do you think Google is getting all this information from?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, it's all coming from your website.
Yeah.
And if you don't have your website right, everything else is not going to really fall into place.
Right.
Even with social media stuff, if we're doing really good reels and all this TikToks and all that, people are still going to find the website one way or another.
Correct.
So,
well, I mean, your Google reviews may pull their attention and get them like interested, but like they're going to fact check you and they're probably going to go to your website, and it has to be a digital first experience. So I know you probably look at your website on your beautiful computer monitor and display, but the nitty-gritty test is on the phone. And like that, I mean, I will give all the credit to Auto Shop Solutions for doing our website last August, and we spent a lot of quality time together.
Quality time, I'm sure.
A lot of quality time. And some critical conversations, but they did a phenomenal job. And especially with a multi-location, having that clear message or the convenience and just having it being very easy to navigate. We also have towing. So like that's
that's a whole nother.
That's a whole added layer of fun on there.
That's a whole other
of how you got to be able for them to schedule
or
goodness the tow operator with just really
that complicates it so much.
Yeah. Oh, we got a lot of layers here.
That's got to be another podcast for sure.
There's it's like a 3D puzzle over like Autos marketing.
Well, you weren't kidding about the whole infinity loop, right?
Yeah, no, it's constant. It's constant. So, giving your phone to people you do know and maybe people that you have just met and just say, hey, would you give me some feedback on our website? I'm just doing some research right now. And seeing what resonates with them and the brand experience about how things can be tweaked so that it's much easier to navigate. Because like I said, people don't have the capacity right now to navigate chaos. So it's got to be really clear and very easy and very intuitive to navigate.
And to take it a step further, I do want you guys to also do this part of this exercise. We talked about mobile websites. One thing that a lot of people don't realize, if you're doing well on social media and you have your website linked on your socials, when people are on their phone and they click on that link, it opens it through the social media app. So now you have a whole nother layer of that you need to look at resolutions of images and
got some more homework to do
and how the formatting works. So it's a whole nother thing because it does shrink it a little bit more. Or sometimes resolution gets dropped off a little bit. Some things are not compatible with Instagram's internal browser. Some things are not compatible with TikTok's internal browser. YouTube is the only one that will actually open it up in another browser. So YouTube's not as difficult, but there's not as many people on YouTube Shorts in your local market as they are on Instagram or TikTok.
Well, what a great opportunity to be in that space first.
It is
that's where we need to go, and that's part of the marketing plan for 2025. So
now, one of the last thing I do want to leave you guys with is I want you guys to be sticky, right? So with your brand, you have to make it sticky for not just for your customers to come and stick to you and want to be part of this brand, but even more so for your employees. So that mission, vision, core values is going to be super important. So if you don't have all that stuff outlined already, let's get on it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like that just creates that higher engaged employee because you align on a much deeper level. Dan always says that our people always set us apart. I said, well, yeah, Dan, but that doesn't describe who our people are. I mean, Walmart's people also set us apart.
They sure do.
And that's probably not, sometimes it's not for the best. So
Yes.
I say, we are caring, competent professionals. And that really resonates with people right now because especially when it comes to auto care, that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
So that's why we led with caring because people first, right? And then competent.
Yeah.
That's a huge word in society that's probably underutilized, but really.
But the automotive space has turned this around quite a bit.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah, I think we're headed in the right direction on that, but you have to do your part.
1,000%. But being able to articulate and have that word directly in front of a consumer.
Oh yeah,
I want that.
Exactly.
Right, and then professionals. Right, we take this as a career and it really has engaged our employees on a much higher level. And our customers feel that. And we're really appreciative for our employees and our team members. And they are the front lines. And we always say they're an extension of the marketing department because we can get them in the door, but they're the ones that are going to care and keep them coming back in the door.
And one last thing, I know you guys are getting very close to even more of a corporate operation at this point. Now, with that being said, you guys don't have a corporate feel at all. There's right now, especially, we're in an area right now where the common perception of corporations is not that good.
Right.
People don't want the corporate feel. And you mentioned this earlier. Figure out a way to be a human first.
Yeah.
As part of your brand, when you're doing your marketing, get that human aspect out there. So even whether it's putting the 5-star review and you actually just do a walk through the shop, there's someone on the screen, kind of reading over what that review was. However you can phrase that, however you can make that happen with whether it's internal marketing team or someone with one of the vendors. Focus on figuring out a way to get that human connection.
Yes.
Everything else will fall into place if you have everything else lined up with your mission, vision, and core values.
1,000%.
Awesome. Well,
yeah. Thank you, Jason.
Of course. Any final thoughts? All right. I think we've had a lot of final thoughts at this.
Well, I mean, we've had like 3 rounds of final thoughts, but
I just can't stop. That's my problem, right?
That's all right.
My brain just keeps going, but
it's been a delightful morning. It's been a wonderful conference. If you are watching this from afar, I encourage you to attend next year's. You do get a lot out of it, and not only just with the speakers and the round tables, but in the side conversations as well. And you never know who you're going to meet.
Especially if you meet Krista just eating breakfast. I mean, your whole break is going to probably run into lunch at that point.
Yeah, correct. I am, like I said, I do love the people. So I appreciate the opportunity to share my knowledge. I will get that Google link folder over to you or however you want to share that with the people who have graced us with their presence today. And I appreciate you for tuning in and taking advantage of this resource that ETI does for us. So
this is awesome. Well, thank you guys very much for watching. We will see you guys in the next one.